We are back with another edition of NFL Weekly. We are covering NFL this week after covering MLB last week. I'm Evan Whitney,
I'm Jack Strogan.
and we're going to get into our first section, game recaps. So the first game, Giants versus Rams. This game was pretty slow. The Giants' offense didn't look too good. The Rams definitely underperformed, though, but they pulled it out.
So now we got the Browns and Cowboys. It was 49-38. OBJ dominated with 3 touchdowns, rushing and catching, as Cowboys' defense is horrible. And even though they cut it to 3 points, they just couldn't come back late, as OBJ had a 50-yard rushing touchdown to really seal the deal and show how well Kevin Stefanski's doing to start the year for the Browns.
So the Bengals get their first win, winning 33-25. All there is to really say about this game is Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon went off, 3 touchdowns. Joe Burrow looked pretty good. Gardner Minshew played a decent game, but the Bengals pulled out.
Then you have the Panthers and Cardinals. Kyler Murray didn't do enough, apparently, even though he threw for 3 touchdowns passing. Teddy Bridgewater, outdueled him. He looked really good. I think Matt Rule is really inspiring the Panthers without McCaffrey, and I don't know. I think the hot seat is starting to get a little warm for Cliff Kingsbury.
So then we got the Bills versus Raiders. The Bills win this one 30-23. Josh Allen continues his MVP season. Josh Jacobs was pretty much held in check this game, but Josh Allen has looked great this year, and I really like this guy.
Then you have Colts Bears 19-11. QB struggles for both teams. Philip Rivers had a decent game, but the QB struggles for the Bears have been atrocious for the last 3-4 years. I think even Foles starting over Trubisky, I think there's still a lot of issues, even though they paid Foles a lot of money to trade for him from the Jaguars. And I think there could be a trade soon for a new franchise QB. I think they could give up picks like they did for the Khalil Mack trade. But overall, I think this Colts team is also really good. I think they have the best defense in the league with Darius Leonard, Justin Houston, and co. I think they made a priority to draft defense, and I think they're doing really good now. And I think they could make a push for the AFC crown.
So then we got the Eagles beating the 49ers in the Sunday Night Football game. Wentz bounces back in this one pretty much after a couple horrible games, in my opinion. The 49ers offense struggled. Nick Mullins didn't play a great game. C.J. Beathard came in and played pretty well, but it wasn't enough in the end. Eagles win this one 25-20.
Then you have the Broncos and Jets, the battle of the 0-for-win teams, but the Broncos pull it out 37-28. Adam Gase, I think, needs to go. I think the whole league hates him. They even had a +3 in the turnover battle, as the Broncos quarterback Brett Rippon threw 3 picks and did not look good. But I just think, even though they had +3 turnovers and didn't even come within 11 points of the Broncos, I think that's sad. I think Sam Darnold is getting robbed in New York. I just think that Adam Gase needs to go. They need new management. They need a new coach to help Sam Darnold perform.
So then we got the Seahawks beating the Dolphins 31-23. Russell Wilson continues his MVP season. The Dolphins kicked too many field goals, coming up just shy in this one.
Then you have the Saints versus the Lions. Saints 35, Lions 29. The Lions choke again. They're really choking this season away. I think they can be way better, but they just got to hold leads. I think their team's really solid, but I think they just got to get better in the close situations. And for the Saints, I think they're still needing to get healthy. Me and Evan both think this team has very high capabilities in the NFC, but I think Drew Brees is slowly getting better. I think Kamara is carrying the team right now. But I just think they really need to get Michael Thomas healthy and back to his ways of getting a lot of catches and runs.
So then we got the 2 winless teams that were in the playoffs last year. The Vikings getting their first win, 31-23 over the Texans. The Vikings bounce back. Dalvin Cook has a great game. I mean, Kirk Cousins looks a little better. Deshaun Watson plays pretty well. But the big story here, Bill O'Brien fired, and 0-4 now for the Texans.
Then you got the Bucks 38 versus the Chargers 31. Even though Justin Herbert threw an absolute dime to start the game, the Buccaneers started to lock down on defense. I think their D-line with Vita Vea and Jason Pierre-Paul is really good. I think they have one of the best front sevens in football, really underrated. But Tom Brady, man, he is looking better. I think his 5 touchdown passes is his career high, and I really think that this Bucs team could get way better with not even having their star receiver Chris Godwin back yet.
So then we got the Ravens beating the Washington 31-17. To me, the Ravens don't look as good as they did last year. Lamar looks a step behind last year. His running is up to speed, but his passing game doesn't look quite as effective to me. Haskins just had been announced benched, so we'll see what happens there. And the Ravens get it done.
Okay, we forgot to say, but the Giants-Rams score was Giants 9, Rams 17. But moving on, for the doubleheader from Monday night, the first game was Chiefs 26, Patriots 10. I think this game could have been way, way closer if you don't have the old man Brian Hoyer starting as the Patriots quarterback. I think the camless Patriots really needed him tonight. I think the Patriots could have really won this game because Mahomes didn't look too great. I think Edwards-Helaire didn't get as much of running yards as he usually does. And I think this Patriots team showed they can really compete with anybody, even without Cam Newton.
So then the final Monday night game, the Packers versus Falcons. The Packers win this one 30-16. Rodgers looks good in his MVP season. The Falcons dropped to 0-4 with their horrific defense.
All right, now we're moving on to the fantasy section of this and our second section of our NFL podcast, Week 4. So now the breakout players we'll start with. We have George Kittle scoring 40.1 points in a really bounce-back game for him. He struggled with injuries to start the season, and after being one of the top tight ends last year out of the surprise, I think this is the game Kittle really needed. Even though they didn't win the game, I think this is really good for San Francisco as they'll be getting Jimmy Garoppolo back hopefully soon.
So our next guy is the highest scoring player of Week 4. One of the best running backs in the league last year, Joe Mixon, scoring 42.1 points. Mixon played a really good game, scoring 3 touchdowns, and I see his success continuing after this week.
Then we have Amari Cooper of the Cowboys, who offense is just rolling right now, even though they can't win games because their defense is atrocious, scoring 33.4 points. I think Amari Cooper, the last 3 years, has really solidified him as one of the top receivers in the league, and I think he's really broken out, this year especially, because, after starting out slow, I think now he's getting his touches back up, and I really think Amari Cooper can really change this Cowboys team for the future with how good he is as a receiver.
So our next guy is Odell. He has really had a bounce-back year after last year. Didn't really play too good last year, scoring 38.4 points in a Browns much-needed victory over the Cowboys. Odell had 3 touchdowns, including 2 rushing touchdowns, and I think his success will continue too.
Then you have DJ Chark of the Jags. Even though this is a rebuilding Jaguars team, I think DJ Chark has been a really surprise story. I think nobody expected him to be good out of LSU, but I think even though Gardner Minshew's not the best quarterback, they may be tanking for Trevor Lawrence next year. I think that DJ Chark could do well with any quarterback. He gets open, he gets yards, and now we'll be moving on to the underperformers section of fantasy this week.
So our first underperformer is Kenyon Drake of the Arizona Cardinals. Drake has not had a season that most fantasy owners would like him to have, just scoring 3.5 points this week. I mean, Drake, just no reception, which always hurts in the PPR leagues. Drake has not played the way fantasy owners would like him to play at all, and I really don't see his success doing too much more than what he's done so far.
Then we have Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Even though they're winning, and I think he should get way more touches as he only scored 8.9 points. I don't know if it's his fault or the O-line's fault, because I think they have one of the best O-lines in the league. And with Najim Hines getting out for the year, I think that Jonathan Taylor needs to step it up in real life and fantasy, as he's a really good pass-catching running back and running the ball. And I think hopefully he can get going, because I really think he's one of the best young backs in the league, and he can get back to performing well.
After a really good week last week, we got Tyler Lockett on here, scoring just 5.9 points. Lockett definitely underperformed this week after having a crazy week last week. Russell Wilson, he had a good game, but not one of his best this year. Lockett, not too many targets, but DK Metcalf kind of stepped into his role from last week.
And then we have Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles. Everyone had him as a top 15 pick in fantasy this year, but as he only scores 9.6 points this week, I think that Miles Sanders has been a really big disappointment. There's a really big void at running back for Philly, and I think everyone thought that with their decent O-line with a bunch of veterans that Miles Sanders could step in the role and be the horse for this team along with Carson Wentz throwing the ball, and only scoring 9.6 points this week against a pretty good defense is still surprising. But I think if he really wants to turn the season around for the Eagles and his fantasy value, that he really needs to turn it up over the next few weeks.
So our final guy is Nick Chubb of the Browns. Chubb had an early exit of this game, getting injured, and he'll be out for the next 6 weeks, just scoring 4.3 points. This is a big loss for fantasy owners, and hopefully Chubb can bounce back once he returns.
Now we are moving on to the sleepers, final section of fantasy of the breakout underperformers and sleepers. And to start off the sleepers, we have Will Fuller, who was on week 2, I think the underperformance list, and he had 22.8 points this week. I think this is the Will Fuller we know and love, the guy who can make big plays down the field and be the deep ball threat that Deshaun Watson needs. Even though their season isn't doing too hot, I think Will Fuller can turn his season around and give Deshaun Watson a weapon for years to come.
So our next guy, Mike Davis, taking Christian McCaffrey's spot. I think any Panthers running back can do damage in this offense, scoring 22.1 points. Davis has been a good pass catcher out of the backfield, and he's ran multiple touchdowns so far this year, and this guy really performed well this week.
We have Ronald Jones of the Buccaneers, who's kind of taking over for Leonard Fournette being hurt. I think that with Tom Brady throwing the ball to Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Gronk, I think that Ronald Jones and Fournette can get a lot of touches. And with Fournette being out right now, I think Ronald Jones, who was a really good running back last year, can keep it up. And I think he's a sleeper that people should add in leagues if he's not owned.
So our final guy, this guy is owned in most every league, but maybe not started, and that's Melvin Gordon. He had a really good week this week, scoring 25.8 points. Melvin Gordon kind of helped his team win this game on the Thursday night game against the Jets. Melvin Gordon, I can see his success continuing after this week with quarterback situation not in the best shape for the Broncos, and I really like Melvin Gordon. So now for our third section, me and Jax will be going into our weekly top 10 power rankings. So my top 10 coming in at number 10 for me is the LA Rams. The Rams definitely underperformed this week, but they've looked pretty good all year. So number 9, I got the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is starting to bounce back after his rough start. Alvin Kamara has really played good for this team. He's really led this team, and he's having a pretty MVP season. So coming at number 8, I got the Bucs. Tom Brady, he looked really good this week after dueling it out with the rookie from Oregon, Justin Herbert. Tom Brady throwing for 5 touchdowns. I really like Tom Brady. He's starting to figure out this Bucs offense, I think. I think the Bucs are a really good team this year. So coming at number 7, after a loss, I got the New England Patriots. Tough for them that Cam Newton was on the COVID list. I think they could have won this game against the Chiefs if he was featured in the game. And after they just got news that Stephon Gilmore also just tested positive, which really hurts them. I like this Patriots team, and I think they can make a playoff push. So at number 6, I got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I really like the Steelers' defense. I really like Ben Roethlisberger, as much as I hate the Steelers as a team. The Steelers were undefeated despite playing against the combined 0-9 teams, but I think the Steelers team is really good, and I think they're for sure a playoff lock. Coming at number 5, I got the Green Bay Packers. I think I could have put the Packers in the top 3, but Aaron Rodgers, just MVP season for him. Aaron Jones, really good year. Packers defense, Za'Darius Smith with 3 sacks this week. I really like this Packers team. Number 4, I got the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen, one of my favorite quarterbacks in this league right now. He can do it all. He's got one of the best arms I've seen out of a quarterback in a long time. The Bills' defense is sensational. I really like this team. Number 3, I got the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson. I would normally put the Ravens higher, but Lamar Jackson hasn't played quite as good as I've expected him to so far. Ravens defense is obviously really good. Marlon Humphrey, one of the best corners in the league. So I would have put the Ravens top 2, but the way they played last week, I don't think they deserved it. Number 2, I got the Seattle Seahawks with Russell Wilson, my MVP pick right now. Really good offense. DK Metcalf, Chris Carson, Tyler Lockett. Good defense. Coming out number 1, the Super Bowl champions of last year, the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, obviously the top quarterback in pretty much everyone's eyes. Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer. The Chiefs offense, Tyreek Hill. This team is just too good.
Now we're on to my top 10 weekly power rankings for week 4. For number 10, I got the Tampa Bay Bucks. I really think, like I said, the front 7 for the Bucks is really good. I really like what the front office has done. Even though O.J. Howard is now out for the year, I think Cameron Brate and Gronk is a really good tight end duo, and hopefully Chris Godwin can get healthy so Tom Brady can really throw the ball around along with Leonard Fournette. He can get healthy so they have another 1-2 punch with him and Ronald Jones. Number 9, we got the Steelers. Even though the Steelers have played teams like a combined 0-9, 0-10, something like that, I think the Steelers are really good. I really like their defense. I think it's top 5 in football. I think having James Conner having a bounce-back year is really good, and having receivers like Juju is really nice, along with the new guy, Eric Ebron from Indianapolis, is a really good tight end, safety blanket for Big Ben. And I just think they have good expectations. I don't know if they're going to win the AFC North, but I think they're a possible playoff team. And now moving on to number 8, we got the LA Rams. Along with Evan, I really like this team. I think Jared Goff's really good, and I think the 3 running back trio led by Darrell Henderson is really good. I think McVay loves to run the football, and I think that he has the running backs to do it this year, not having Gurley anymore. And I think the defense led by Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey is a 2-headed monster that nobody would like to throw the ball to or get pass rushed by. And I think this Rams team could also make a playoff run. And now my number 7. I know Evan doesn't have it on their top 10, but I really like this Tennessee Titans team. I think Ryan Tannehill just had the curse of playing for Adam Gase and the Dolphins uniform for really long. And ever since he's been in New England with Mike Vrabel, I really think that he's taken his game to the next level. We got to give the man credit. I know everyone says just run the ball off to big Derrick Henry, but I really think that he's done a really good job operating and being a system quarterback that can throw the ball to guys like A.J. Brown. And now moving on to number 6, we got the Patriots. I wholeheartedly agree with Evan that they could have really won that game against the Chiefs with Cam, because I think Cam brings elements that the Chiefs can't really guard against. I still think Bill Belichick, has done a really good job with the Patriots after 7 starters decided to opt out with COVID. I think without having Stephon Gilmore, it's a big loss, but I really think this Patriots team can go far, and they can compete with the Bills in the AFC East. And now we're moving on to number 5. We got the Green Bay Packers. I think this team should be higher after their Monday night performance, but I really like where this team's going. I think Matt LaFleur has done a really good job coaching the Packers team. I like Aaron Jones. I like their their new receivers they have. And I think that having Lazarius Smith as their leader on defense, they could really go far in a bad division. Now moving on to my number 4, I got the Seattle Seahawks. I think this is Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Chris Carson, and everyone else. I think they're struggling a lot. I think on defense, especially with Jamal Adams being in and out of the starting lineup, being hurt. But I really think a surprising thing about Seattle is their O-line's been pretty good. Chris Carson's been able to run the ball a lot and do his thing offensively, with Russell Wilson being the Batman to his Robin. And I just think Pete Carroll is a really good coach and a Super Bowl champion, and I think they can go far as well. Now to my number 3, I really like this Bills team like Evan. I think Stephon Diggs was a really big get for the Bills, and I think that this defense is still nasty. I think they can go far in this division, and I really like how this team's built top to bottom under Sean McDermott, and I really like the direction this team's going the last few years. Now, for my number 2, I still love the Baltimore Ravens. I really love Lamar Jackson. I think Greg Roman's a really good offensive coordinator, and signing Marlon Humphrey long term is really good. And I think still having the experience of having John Harbaugh as head coach is really good. He has a lot of playoff experience. He's a Super Bowl champion. And I still think, even though their passing offense has been really bad lately, I think Lamar can turn it around since he's one of the bright young stars of this league. And now we're moving on to my number one. Obviously, me and Evan both had the Kansas City Chiefs. They're just really good all around. I mean, they have weapons at every position. You got Tyrann Mathieu in the secondary, Chris Jones on the D-line. I mean, there's just too much talent on this team. I think it's hard for any team to beat them under Patrick Mahomes. Now he has a 10-year extension. I think this is a dynasty that can keep its rule for a long time. And now moving on to our fourth section, we have the big news and predictions for next week's game / news. The first news is that after Bill O'Brien gets fired, was he the problem? Why the Texans are so bad this year, Evan?
Bill O'Brien, I don't think he was a bad coach, but he was a horrible GM, and like what he was doing with their team. I don't think he was a bad coach for their team, but what he did for them and their future is really, really bad. I mean, I think they're turning around a little bit with their new coach, maybe get some confidence going, but what do you think? What do you think about this?
I think that the GM moves he's made is absolutely atrocious. He traded for an old David Johnson when they have Hyde anymore. They have Duke Johnson still there. I really think that this team could have been way better after making the playoffs the last 2 years. And I just think that they have to hire a grown-up in the room after all of the moves Bill O'Brien has made. And I think they need some structure and an O-line besides Laramie Tunsil. And I think they need to really just honestly go to rebuild soon under Deshaun Watson with star players like J.J. Watt still here. Brendan McKinley is still a really good linebacker in this league. And I just think that the Texans need to turn around ship fast before it sinks.
So on to our next section. Can the Bills keep up with the Ravens and Chiefs in the AFC title hunt and get that 1 seed? What do you think, Jax?
I really think they can. I really like their structure they're built. With the Ravens being a little worse this year and the Chiefs, we've seen them play good teams, but we don't know how good that defense is. They're always a little weird in the playoffs. But I think that the Bills are really talented this year. I think Stephon Diggs was a really good trade for them. And even though they don't have the big names like the Ravens and Chiefs do, I really like their coaching, their GM. I think top to bottom they're a really blue-collar organization. And I think that if they do everything right and they play their game and let Josh Allen eat and let him do his thing, I think they can do it. What about you, Evan? What do you think about the Bills' chances?
Yeah, I think the Bills I think they're for sure going to win their division, beating out the Patriots. But getting that 1 seed, I don't know. I think the Chiefs are going to secure the 1 seed. I think the Bills will be right up with the Ravens, though. I think they're a pretty even-matched team this year. I mean, I really like this Bills defense. I really like Josh Allen, his arm strength, his receivers, Stephon Diggs. I really like this Bills team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Josh Allen has the top arm in the league, debatably with Mahomes. I really think this team can go far. But I just think, do you think that the Bills' defense is the best out of the three?
Yeah, I do. I think the Ravens are right up there, but I think the Bills top them off. I don't think they have the most stars like the Ravens do with like Marlon Humphrey and Calais Campbell, but I think they have a better defense overall.
Yeah, I agree, Evan, but I really think this is a long season. We have a long way to go. We're only 4 games into the season, and only time will tell if there are injuries will happen or any other big things. But I really think this will be a fun AFC race this year. All right, Evan, you know I love the Cleveland Browns a lot, and I have the question to ask you, do the Browns have a legitimate shot in the AFC North?
You know, I think they do. Baker Mayfield looks good to me. Odell Beckham looks like a key part of their offense, but Nick Chubb going down definitely is going to hurt them, but I think Kareem Hunt will fill right in his shoes, and I think he'll have a lot of success. But it's going to be difficult with having the Ravens and the Steelers in the division, but I think they have a legitimate shot, yes.
Yeah, I agree. I'm trying not to be biased here, but this is the first time we're 3-1 since 2001, before I was born. And I really like this team, how it's built, but I think not having Grant Delpit and Mack Wilson on the defensive end can really hurt this team. And I know we already played Baltimore. We got smacked by them week 1. We had like 3 or 4 turnovers. Baker had his worst game of the year. But we are really playing better. I think Kareem Hunt's very viable. And what do you think's the key to the Browns' success so far?
I think it's Baker Mayfield. I think he is the anchor to this team, and I think their success depends on him. And I think he's played well, and the rest of their team has followed behind him.
Yeah, I agree. As a Browns fan last year, I was really critical of him. I didn't think he was making the right reads. I think Freddie Kitchens was the wrong coach for him. He let him have too much fun. I think Kevin Stefanski was the right hire for the Vikings offensive coordinator. And I really think this team, I don't think they're Super Bowl ready yet. I think they're a few pieces away defensively. But offensively, they have one of the best O-lines in football. A really good tight end group with Austin Hooper and Harrison Bryant and David Njoku. And their wide receivers with Jarvis Landry and OBJ are really good. And when they have their running backs, now with Dearness Johnson, Kareem Hunt, and Nick Chubb, what do you think the ceiling of this team is?
I think the ceiling, I agree with you. I don't think they're Super Bowl ready yet, but I think they can make a couple rounds through in the playoffs. Honestly, I mean, if Baker Mayfield performs, I think they're a really, really good team, and I think teams should be scared to play them.
All right, we're adding a new section to our NFL Weekly. It's our top 3 MVP voting for every week, and I'm going to start with mine. We got Russell Wilson as my top MVP candidate. I really think he's talented, as you know, for years now. He's never gotten a single MVP vote. I think this changes this year. I think people need to start putting more respect on this guy's name. He's leading the league in NFL in passing touchdowns. He rarely turns the ball over, and I think without Russell Wilson, the Seahawks are not the same team. And I think that it's his year to win it. And moving on to number 2, I got Aaron Rodgers as my number 2 MVP candidate. He is returned after the Packers drafted a quarterback first round, Julian Love, out of Utah State for no reason, as Aaron Rodgers has gotten a fire lit under him. And I think second year under Matt LaFleur, he's been really good. He's been really accurate, and I think he's spreading the sugar without Devontae Adams in the lineup and really utilizing Aaron Jones in the passing game well. And number 3, this is my sneaky one. I got Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara, after a lot of back issues and trade rumors this offseason, has been really good for the Saints. He's really talented back out of Tennessee, and I think this is the year he could sneakily win it if he keeps running well and keeps catching the ball to the backfield ball for Drew Brees.
So to wrap it up, I'll move on to my MVP voting. So coming in at number 1 for me, Russell Wilson. I think he's just due for MVP after not receiving 1 vote in his whole career. This man is elite, and I really like the year he's having so far, and I just think he's due for an MVP season. So coming in at number 2, I'm really high on this guy. Like I said earlier, I have Josh Allen. I mean, he's led this Bills team to an undefeated season so far, and I'm curious to see if he can continue his success. But so far, I mean, with Stephon Diggs, I've really liked Josh Allen. And then coming in at number 3, I've got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, for how old he is, he's playing exceptional. Leading this Packers team to an undefeated season as well. Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, they're working well together. Aaron Rodgers is really just impressive so far. So that's going to do it for this week of NFL Weekly. I'm Evan Whitney.
I'm Jack Strogan.
And next week we'll be back. Peace out.